The Museum of Old and New Art, which opened in 2011 on the banks of the Derwent River in Hobart, has become a major drawcard. But its owner and founder, David Walsh, is concerned about how he'll continue to fund it after the Australian Taxation Office issued a bill of $37 million. The ATO ruled that as a professional gambler, he and a group of other individuals who formed an international gaming syndicate are conducting a business. The ATO is believed to have frozen Mr Walsh's betting accounts in Australia. Mr Walsh says it's unjust that after years of saying he was not involved in a business, the tax office has now made a backflip in a battle which may go all the way to the High Court. Hamish Fitzsimmons spoke exclusively to David Walsh in Hobart and filed this report.
David Walsh built his massive art collection with his profits from gambling and created a $180 million confluence of the old and new on the banks of the Derwent River in Hobart's northern suburbs.
I wanted to learn about something, and I tend to like to do the things I want to learn about. You know, I made a few bucks gambling and money in the bank didn't seem all that interesting to me.
It's that money that's now caught the attention of the tax office. In 2010, the ATO advised Mr Walsh his earnings were taxable after repeated rulings to the contrary. Now he's been hit with a tax bill of $37 million plus interest for the years 2003 to 2006.
20 years that they've been deciding that we weren't taxable, they have never asked me for an interview.
Next month, the case goes before the federal court, clouding what's been a roaring success for a state struggling economically.
I'm prepared to accept, and I think, I can't speak for people that I haven't asked, but I think most people that do this stuff that I do would think it's fair that once they say you're taxable, you know, paying taxes something that Australians should do, so I'd be prepared to, am prepared to pay tax from the point where they told me that I was taxable, but it seems a little bit disingenuous to then backdate it a number of years, and then it seems likely that they had decided that they wanted to tax us maybe in 2006 or thereabouts and didn't even tell us, which puts me in a predicament because I have, you know, the usurious interest rates that they charge, and you know, it's a bill that I can't pay, and it's an unjust bill in my opinion.
Do you think there's a tall poppy element here that they've seen the money you've spent now on your collection in Mona and thought maybe we were wrong, that you were worth more than they thought?
Before Mona existed, they knew how much we were winning, and you know how variable it was, and all the things that perhaps were made it difficult for them to make up their mind, or maybe it was. But anyway, they knew that. I have no opinion on whether Mona influenced their judgment, you know. But it's fair to say that I wouldn't have been able to build Mona in the timescale that I did it. In fact, it may be that I wouldn't have been able to build it at all if I had been, you know, if I'd have been paying tax throughout that period. In saying that, you know, I probably would have been planning for something, because it's.
So, I mean, is it a business? I mean, the tax office is saying yes. What do you say to them?
Well, you know, I don't know. I'm not an expert on law, but according to their definition, no. You know, we don't try to minimise the risk. We don't keep records. We don't employ staff. We don't do, you know, and, you know, if winning money makes you a business, which is fundamentally what it boils down to, because, you know, then there are people that are just as organised as us that win and lose, you know, then they're going to have problems with a lot of other potential claims for losses. Or maybe they intend to go the US way and this is the thin end of the wedge, and they're going to eventually tax all winners, irrespective of where it came from.
Mr Walsh says one of the stories behind the building of Mona shows how ad hoc his so-called strategy is.
It's a story I haven't told before, but it kind of touches on the risk aspect. In just before the Melbourne Cup in 2009, I was accruing bills at the rate of about $5 million a month to build Mona, it had got compressed up a bit. They were coming in faster than I expected, and I couldn't pay them. And obviously, I've never told the builders this, but I discussed this with Jelko, my gambling partner, and he said, well, it can't make it any worse, so why don't we go crazy on the cup? And we bet 3 or 4 times bigger than we usually do.
It's shocking to win the Melbourne Cup from crime scene.
We got lucky, and over the cup period, won about, I think, 16 or 17 million bucks, which kept this place on the agenda. So, yeah, I mean, gambling is my nature, and you look at this place and it's here, and it seems inevitable, but a lot of people have a lot of plans, and you have to get lucky to be able to bring them to fruition.
The centre of the tax office claim is that the punters club Mr Walsh is a member of is a business and run along corporate lines. Former tax office auditor Chris Siege says the scale of the operation dwarfs that of the average person having a punt.
If your operation is got a $2.4 billion annual turnover, employs 300 people around Australia, and started 3 service companies up to provide the Punters Club members with information like analysis and form, then I think you're looking at more than a hobby.
One of the things the ATO is saying that there are 300 odd employees and 3 holding companies. They seem to be applying the if it quacks like a duck test, whereas you might use the duck-rabbit test. Who's right?
Well, I mean, there are a bunch of people that provide information and we use it, and they're particularly interested in like, I don't know the exact number of suppliers that we've got, but I think it's around about 20 or 30. Those 3 are part of the tax office argument because they predominantly supply us. But I have no beneficial interest in, I don't make any money out of them beyond the fact that I benefit from the gambling.
David Walsh says taxing gambling earnings is unknown in Australia.
We turn over a lot of money in Australia, and particularly in South Australia and Tasmania. The racing industry was very dependent on our turnover. The consequences of gambling being taxed are not clear to me. I suspect that there are a lot of scared punters that are following this case. But, I'm one of them.
This monument to modern art is one man's vision of what he thought an art museum should be like, and it's been embraced locally and internationally. Support for David Walsh in his case against the Australian Taxation Office has come from far and wide. Even the Tasmanian government says it has some vested interest in the success of Mona.
Our statistics show that an average visitor who comes to see Mona actually stays around about 9 nights in Tasmania. So the flow on for our restaurants, our wider tourism community is very big.
I will have to take it all the way because, 1, I can't pay the bill, and 2, I think it's particularly unjust, this retrospectivity. So I'll take it to the High Court, and I'm pretty sure that the High Court will want to hear it because it is, if the ATO's view is upheld, a significant precedent. So if I can't get a settlement, and I really hope I'll get a settlement, I'll fight it all the way.
Hamish Fitzsimmons, Late Line.